Welcome to the Four Bells. Here we are doing workout from home number 84. We are in week 3 of our push-up cycle, but as you know, the middle day, Wednesday on our push-up cycle is a lower body focus. Today we're going to focus a lot on hinging mechanics and some single leg work today. So we're going to warm up to get ourselves ready for that. We're going to do these 3 things 3 times. We're going to start off with a very simple toe touch with reach. Some people think this is too simple, but can you touch your toes? Can you do a nice little stretch of the hamstring? We're going to find out. We're going to do 5 of those guys. No, we're not. 10. 10 is how we do it. I lied to you. My apologies. From there, we're going to do a little combo movement, the old squat, lunge, lunge. A little combination of movements together. We'll show you how that goes down for 5 reps. I'll double check this time. And then from there, single leg deadlifts. So working on hinging patterns as well as a little bit of balance and stability. We're going to do 5 per side. So we're going to do these 3 things 3 times. Let's talk about how they should work. The toe touch and reach, very simple hamstring stretch. I'm going to reach, I'm supposed to set my feet up first, make sure the knees are locked out. Ideally, you're not going to have a soft bend in the knee, legs nice and straight. And as I'm thinking, as I'm trying to touch my toes, chest is trying to get as close to the thighs as possible. So I'm by no means a gymnast. It's not like I'm going to pancake my body, but my intention is to get as close as I can. So I'm going to curl down, touch those toes. From there, I'm going to reach up to the ceiling. Curl down, touch the toes, and if I can, maybe lean back a little bit. Curl down, touch the toes, and see how far we can lean back. We're going to do that for 10 total reps. From there, the old squat, lunge, lunge, which means I'm going to do a bodyweight squat. I then step forward into a lunge, press back, step forward into a lunge. That's 1 rep. Squat, lunge, lunge, and that's 2 reps. From there, single leg deadlift, we of course want that Romanian deadlift position, which means I should be thinking about just pushing the hip back, soft bend in the knee, we load the hamstring, load the glute, we're trying to keep the chest up and nice and neutral. Of course, that's on 2 legs. We're doing a single leg deadlift, which means I'm going to push the hip back, load the hamstring, load the glute, bring the torso parallel to the floor, we drive the hip in, squeeze the glute as we stand up. Push the hip back, load, 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 and then drive it forwards. If it is a huge balance issue for you with single leg deadlift, grab a post, hold onto a broomstick, and just use your hand to assist you a little bit throughout the single leg deadlift. We're going to do those 3 things 3 times in the warm-up. Strength piece today, as always, what do we have available to us at home? And that's really going to dictate how we approach our hinging focused day. We're going to do 5 sets today. Each set is 3 minutes long, split into 2 90-second windows of time. In my first 90 seconds, I've got choices. If I have maybe a barbell or the ability to have some heavy dumbbells, heavy kettlebells, then we'll be looking at Romanian deadlifts today for 10 reps. So if you have those resources available to you, I encourage you to do Romanian deadlifts today. If you don't have those resources available to you, maybe you've only got some light kettlebells, some light dumbbells, we're still going to focus on hinging, but we're going to look more of a single leg variation, which is going to be the single leg deadlift, which we're still going to do for 10 reps, but we will do for 5 on our second strongest side, and then 5 on our strongest side. And ideally, if we can, as the 5 sets go on, we should be trying to make them a little bit heavier as we go. From there, in our second 90 seconds, we're going to do deficit reverse lunges. So, we always talk about this when we do anything that involves an elevated foot or maybe a step back or step down, is before I add any kind of platform into it, is can I do reverse lunges without using a deficit? If balance is a big issue for you, then we don't worry about a deficit. Of course, we're going to talk about that in a second. We're going to do 8 reps per side. Maybe they're all at body weight if these are very tough for you, but if we can, just like the hinging, our Romanian deadlifts and single leg deadlifts, we should be trying to get a little bit heavier each set. Let's take a look at both of these bad boys. If you are lucky enough to have some, I suppose, increasing weights available to you, we want to be looking at the Romanian deadlift today. So one of my favorite hinging patterns, I'd probably say Romanian deadlifts for me personally, have overtaken conventional deadlifts. I just love them a lot more lately. I don't know why, I just do. I find them very enjoyable. So for me, when it comes to the Romanian deadlift, what I'm trying to think about is how can I load this and also get a big dynamic stretch through the hamstring. So I always like starting my Romanian deadlifts from the top, from standing, and then going down and coming back up. That's how I like to do them. But of course, if you don't have a squat rack and you're starting from the floor, I always recommend just deadlifting the bar up safely first. So I set the hands up on my bar, and of course I'm going to take a little step away from the squat rack here. And just like in our single leg deadlift we did in the warm-up, the focus is pushing the hip back. So I'm thinking chest gets pulled forward, hips get pulled back. That should be the focus when we are doing our Romanian deadlift. Big stretch through the hamstring. Trying to make sure I don't lose the upper back, not reaching for the floor and rounding the back. Spine stays neutral throughout. And we're going to do 10 reps of a Romanian deadlift. If you can, try and get heavier every single set. Should be very challenging for 10 reps at the end if we can. From there, of course, if you're thinking to yourself, well, that's great, Mark, I don't have the barbell. What do I do instead? The answer is, of course, single leg deadlifts. So if you could do them at body weight in the warm-up, and they felt very manageable, now we're going to add a little bit of weight to the situation, which in turn might add a little bit more of an unstable situation for you as well. So if I'm standing on my right leg, I'm going to hold my weight in my left hand, in a little bit of a transverse stability situation going on. Pushing the hip back, I load the hamstring, load the glute, again, making sure I'm not reaching. Chest stays up, I drive the hip through, squeeze the glutes. Push the hip back, load the hamstring, load the glute, drive it forwards, squeeze the glutes. We're going to do 5 per side with a single leg deadlift, and just like with the Romanian deadlifts, go heavier if you can. With the deficit reverse lunge, what we mean by deficit is we're going to be standing on a small podium or a platform. Here in the gym, I'm going to use a 45-pound plate. But I would say whatever you're using, ideally shouldn't be much higher than about your index finger. So, of course, if you find that you're home with just a stair, or maybe the stairs on your stairs going up in your house, you might find that's a significantly larger rise when it comes to deficit, which in turn is going to make that movement a little bit harder. So bear that in mind when you are picking your platform height. When it comes to our deficit reverse lunge, before I even think about standing on this platform, is can I do it at body weight without falling over? So of course with our reverse lunge, feet are on train tracks, I step back, touch the knee to the floor, and then we drive back up. And you can either alternate for 8 reps, or you can do 8 reps on one side and then 8 reps on the other. When it comes to being in our deficit, I just want to have my heel just on the edge of my podium, that way I'm not going to fall off. And again, if I can't step back and have that back knee touch the floor, there's no point in doing the deficit. So if you can, ideally, if you're going to stand up a little bit higher, that back knee should touch the floor. The reason behind that is we're trying to increase that range of motion, put more stress through the glutes, the hamstrings, and the quads, trying to make that movement harder on purpose. So if you can do that deficit reverse lunge, and you find it pretty easy at body weight, then feel free to add dumbbells by your side or a kettlebell at your chest. But just like with hinging, make it heavier if you can. With our conditioning piece today, we have 2 6-minute AMRAPs with a 2-minute break in between. So what we're looking for in these little short, snappy AMRAPs is to cycle through 2 exercises as quickly as possible and get as much work done as we can in each 6-minute window of time. So in our first 6 minutes we're going to look at is going to be a frog hop. So a frog hop, a little bit different to a jumping squat. Of course, we'll go over that in a second, which we're going to go do for 10 reps. From there, if you have a slam ball or something you can slam into the ground, or maybe even a sledgehammer strike if you have something to hit a sledgehammer with, we are going to do 10 reps. If you don't have that, we're going to look at a deck squat today instead for 10 reps. So that's what we're going to be doing for our first 6 minutes. It's going to be frog hops for 10, then either ball slams or deck squats for 10, back and forth for 6 minutes. We then take a 2-minute breather, take a little bit of water on. We then get into our second 6-minute AMRAP today. Ideally, we have a kettlebell for this where we are going to do some reverse kettlebell lunges, even more reverse lunging today. Make sure the glutes get a lot of action. We're going to do 5 per side, 10 total. And then from there, ideally using the same kettlebell if I can, I'm going to be doing 15 kettlebell swings. Again, going back and forth between reverse lunges and kettlebell swings. Let's take a look at all these exercises and how they pertain to today's conditioning piece. The frog hop, very similar to a jumping squat, we're just not going all the way down. So that ideally, hopefully makes it a little bit easier, and it also means that you can kind of turn over those reps a little bit faster. So with the frog hop, I personally like to have my hands on hips, just to look so jaunty. I'm going to send my hips back to about 45 degrees with the thigh, and then from there I'm going to try and jump as high as possible. When I land, I'm trying to absorb that force and immediately come into the next rep. If you know your joints don't like that, they don't like rebounding over and over, you can stop in between reps, reset, and then go again. So I close the hip, nice and high. And as soon as my 10 reps are done, we then have choices. Is it ball slam or deck squat? With the ball slam, we're looking to be explosive, close the hip as aggressively as possible. I'm going to be overhead, slam the ball down, and if I can, catch it on the bounce, making sure that when I come down, I'm not rounding that back out. If you don't have a ball, we could do deck squats. And if deck squats are tough for you, you could hold on to a weight. Could be a plate, could be a small dumbbell. Either way, I'm going to set my feet up in front of the mat, squat down, roll back, throw the weight, stick it, and stand up. Either way, ball slams or deck squats, 10 of your finest reps. For the final 6-minute AMRAP today, it's going to be 10 reverse lunges with a kettlebell, and ideally, if we can, using that same kettlebell into 15 kettlebell swings. So, what would I like to see? In an ideal world, what would make me happy is a heavy kettlebell. I want those lunges to be tough. I want those swings to be tough. But if you're thinking, well, I don't like kettlebell, then my advice to you is just try and get more work done within that 6-minute window. So you don't have heavy weights, move faster, it is an alternative. So, we get our kettlebell up into our front rack position, our goblet squat position, and I'm going to step back, touching that knee to the floor, just like we did in our deficit reverse lunges, all the lunges today. Once I've done 10, I'm into my swings, nice snap through the hip, squeezing the glutes, locking out the quads, and once I've done 15, we're back into that front rack, ready to go into lunges again. So in our first 6-minute AMRAP, it is, what is it? 10 frog hops, 10 ball slams or deck squats. We then rest for 2 minutes. In our last 6 minutes, it's 10 reverse lunges and 15 kettlebell swings. Have tons of fun. Let us know if you need help. And most importantly, let us know how you go on.